Welcome to the tutorial on deploying the Wirepas services using the Containerized Application Lifecycle Management feature on Orchestra. In this video, we'll show you how to streamline the setup of your Wirepas network by using Orchestra to deploy services to all your Edge IoT devices in just one click. Instead of having to configure each gateway individually, you can now use Orchestra to deploy them across all your Edge devices at once, saving you time and resources. To follow along, head over to our documentation at docs.orchestra.cthings.co. There, you'll find the Docker Compose files you'll need along with the required variables: MQTT username, MQTT password, MQTT hostname, MQTT port, gateway model, and gateway version. First, create a fleet by giving it a name and a description. For the purpose of this tutorial, we'll name our fleet Wirepas Demo Fleet. Next, let's add devices to our fleet. Use the command OCLI CALM fleet attach device and provide the fleet ID. This will bring up an interactive selector to add devices. Use the arrow keys to navigate and the spacebar to select your devices. Now, create your composition. In this step, all you'll need to do is give it a name. Use the command OCLI CALM composition create and enter your chosen name for the composition. Let's take a look at the previously prepared Docker Compose file. You can find this example in our documentation. Next, we'll create a composition version. For this, you'll need a Docker Compose file. Use the command OCLI CALM composition version create and provide the file path to your Docker Compose file. Then, assign it a version number using semantic versioning, add a description, and include the ID of the composition we just created. Now, let's attach the composition to our fleet. Use the command OCLI CALM fleet attach composition and provide both the composition ID and the fleet ID. List all our fleets. Now let's move on to adding variables. This is a crucial step, so we need to make sure not to mix up the variables. In Orchestra, variables have an inheritance structure. Most variables are created at the composition level, meaning all devices running this composition will inherit these variables. Additionally, we can set device-specific variables, which are unique to each device. Let's start with the device-specific variable, called Gateway ID. To add this variable, use the command OCLI CALM variable create. The options are as follows: Option K for key, Option V for value, Option D for description, and Option R for resource ID, in this case, the device ID, and resource type, device. Continue creating unique ID variable for each device. Now, let's create shared variables at the composition level. Use the OCLI CALM variable create command again, but this time set the resource as a composition and provide the composition ID. This shared variable is the gateway model, as all devices in our fleet use the same model. Continue with next variables: device-specific variable, gateway ID, and all shared variables: MQTT username, MQTT password, MQTT hostname, MQTT port, gateway model, and gateway version. Next, let's list all composition versions to identify which one you want to release. Now, let's release our composition version on the fleet. Use the command OCLI CALM release create and provide both the composition version ID and the fleet ID to complete the release. Finally, you can go to Orchestra Manager on the web and check the fleet to confirm that the composition is running on all devices. You will see the status indicating that everything is operational.